What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am so excited about today's video because today I will be unboxing and reviewing this X1 Carbon Combo 3D printer from Bambu Labs. Now this was a Kickstarter 3D printer that I heard about late last year, and unfortunately I did miss out on the entire Kickstarter campaign. But I did manage to get in on the first set of pre-orders after the Kickstarter ended. Now, I did pre-order this several months ago, and I've been waiting to get my hands on this printer. And now that I have it, I'm super excited to first unbox this and share with you my experience. Now, this is probably not the first time that you've seen or heard about this printer because so many people got in on the Kickstarter, the pre-orders, as well as beta units that they pretty much sent out to everyone to really just get the word out and excite people about this 3D printer. Now, based on all the feedback, all the Twitter posts and all the Instagram posts, and as well as all the social media blitz, it sounds like everyone that got one is happy with the performance of the printer itself. Even those that even got beta units that weren't fully functional or fully complete yet. Now, based on what I've seen and heard, this 3D printer from Bambu Labs is going to set the bar for 3D printers going forward. In fact, it's probably the fastest, most accurate, most feature-rich 3D printer on the market today. Now what's nice is that Bambu Labs is now starting to get the initial set of pre-orders out and shipped to the people who ordered them. And also, they are now available for pre-order to the general public. So if you're interested in these after this video, or just interested in getting one overall, I'll make sure I leave a link to it in the description section below where you can pre-order your own. As for me, I am so excited that I finally have one of these of my own to play with, so stay tuned. So, based on the reviews and everything that I've heard and seen, this 3D printer from Bambu Labs hits high marks on speed, quality, and impressive features. Now from a speed perspective, I don't think there's a printer out there that's faster than this one that can print at the level of quality that this printer can print. Not only that, but I also paid extra for an attachment that allows me to print in multicolor without even having to replace or remove any filaments. Now overall, I'm still a newbie to the 3D printing world, and my first 3D printer is the Ender 3 Pro, which I reviewed a few months ago, which is supposed to be a great printer for beginners at a very affordable price, which it absolutely is. Now because I want to start printing my own hydroponic towers, one, to save time, to lower costs, and also potentially maybe one day sell them, the Ender 3 Pro just wasn't cutting it because of the speed at which it prints. Now I'm not saying that this X1 Carbon from Bambu Labs is going to be any better, but it's definitely going to be faster than the Ender 3 Pro. And hopefully with this, I can start printing my own hydroponics towers and start marketing and selling those as well because of the lowered cost. Now as you can see, this box is pretty huge. In fact, I think it's half my size. And admittedly, it's also very, very heavy. So let's go ahead and start by unboxing this thing and then setting it up and see how well it works and if it lives up to all the hype. Now, because this box is so huge, I am going to put this on the floor and unbox it and bring the pieces or parts or whatever's in the box up onto the table itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what's in this box. And they did tape the plastic down, I guess, to keep it from moving around and to make sure that it's safe. So this is packaged very well and very securely. Okay, so it looks like this is the printer itself. And as you can see, it is a pretty nice sized printer. And it's got the instruction manual here taped to the top. So this is the instruction quick start manual. So as you can see, several pages. And this is a glass top right here. And then inside the printer itself, looks like this is the multicolor filament holder or dispenser, and also some other accessories. So there's this box in here. It's like a power cable. I'm not sure what this is. Glue stick for build plate. Spool holder. We've got some 3M double-sided tape. Safety guidelines booklet. Some type of connector cable. Hot end screws. Thermal grease. This looks like the print head. So this is a custom 0.4 millimeter print head. Actually, most everything in this printer is custom. Scrapers, lubricant grease, and all kinds of other parts. This is probably a cleaner tube. Not sure what it is exactly, but it's got a very fine and thin, sharp tip to it, which I'm having a hard time getting it back into this hole. This is the LCD screen, which is very unique for this 3D printer. So I'll just be careful with that. Then you've got the multicolored cartridge thing, which I'm not exactly sure how you get out of this thing just yet. I think it's being held in place by all this styrofoam in here. And I feel bad for putting all these fingerprints on the glass already. Super dry material, which I like to keep. Okay, and I think this can be lifted out now, or not. Something is holding it in place for sure. Wonder if they have unpacking instructions in this booklet. And yes, they do. They have unpacking instructions in the booklet itself. So remove the screws. Okay, so you're going to need this hex tool to do that. So there's one screw down here at the bottom. Okay, so let that be a lesson. You should read the instructions, especially for a printer that's this expensive. Okay, and then you remove the AMS and accessory box from the top. You gotta be very careful because there are tubes attached to it. Okay, so we'll put that to the side here. Okay, and then we're gonna just set this glass aside. Okay, and there is an additional 4 screws, and there is an AMS cushioning for what this thing came in, which is this black plate at the bottom. And there are 4 screws also holding this thing down that you'll need to remove. So we'll do that. Okay, so that's one that's loosened. So there is some assembly required, and this is not going to be ready to go right out of the box. Okay, so I should just be able to lift this thing out. And this is the base plate. Okay, and then we've got the different types of covers for the hot plate, which we will also put aside. Just not enough space in this studio. Okay, so it says remove the 3 screws to unlock the hotbed and connect the printer to power. 3 screws to unlock the hotbed. Okay, so that's 3 here, so let's take those screws out. Okay, and then it says connect the printer to power right after that. So I guess don't remove any of the cardboard or anything else until calibrated the printer. So it says remove the screws to unlock the hotbed and then connect the printer to power. But then again, it's kind of out of order because it has connect the screen. It says follow the instructions on the screen, but I don't have the screen attached. But then the next thing after the calibration instructions is to attach the screen. The instructions are a little bit out of order. So let's go ahead and install the screen. So we're going to take this off. So pull this thing out about 50 millimeters. FPC into the port by pressing the terminal as pictured. Okay, so I think that's right, but we will find out. Okay, so time to tell if we did it right. Okay, so logo right here in the front, the Bambu Lab logo. We are now going to follow the on-screen instructions to complete the calibration. So we're going to put this in English. Click next. Connected to a network. So this thing does have a network connection, which is nice, and I assume so you can connect it to your app. So no 5G connection, so it looks like we have to connect it to the 2.4. Okay, so we are going to start setting this up. So connecting it, looks like it only allows you to connect for 2.4 gigahertz, so we are connected to my network. Okay, so we'll scan the QR code to log into the printer. Accept, download the app, get it. Okay, click open, agree, allow, we'll continue with Apple, agree, continue with Apple. Okay, so scan the QR code to log into the printer. Click the plus, allow, okay. And we'll click this scan button. Okay, so we'll scan the QR code. And confirm and bind it. I removed the AMS cushioning tray, which is this, by removing the 4 screws. And now I've also pulled out the AMS and accessory box, which goes on the top of the printer. Okay, so in order to put the top tray on there, I'm going to need to put this top glass back on, I assume. And I like how it's tempered glass, so that's nice. Very solid build quality for this printer itself. Very impressed. Okay, so I do have to remove this assembly screw. So the good thing is there are rubber pads on the bottom of this so it doesn't scratch the tempered glass, but then tempered glass is pretty strong in itself. So this is the poop chute for where the discarded filaments go from the test runs. Should just feed into the back of this. Now what's good about this AMS is that it will hold up to 4 spools, and then you can connect up to 4 of these AMSs to this entire 3D printer for a total of 16 different spool colors or spool types. So I assume you connect the secondary AMS to this additional plug on the back. That way you can connect up to 4 of these AMS spool dispensers to the 3D printer itself, which gives you a lot of variety and also makes it so you don't have to keep replacing spool over and over again. Okay, so the 3D print head is already installed actually, so that's good. So this is a spare 3D print head, which is nice because these things can be pretty expensive, so it's nice that they included a spare one for the printer itself. Okay, so after reading the instructions a little bit more, I did figure out that we need to remove all the styrofoam and all the cardboard from the printer itself. So that's what I've gone and done for pretty much everything within the printer in here. And make sure you also remove all the stickers and tape or whatever's in there. For the AMS, you will need to also remove this extra tubing you have. This is just extra. So what's nice about Bambu Labs is they did provide a bunch of extra parts, which also includes, again, this extra print head, which is nice. Make sure you also remove the sticker here within the multi-functional AMS here. And then after you've removed those 2 stickers, make sure you also take off this ventilation thing. And you'll notice inside here there's some desiccant, which is going to help to keep the moisture out. but you'll notice that it does come in plastic, so you'll have to take it out of the plastic for it to be effective. And then once that's done, you just go ahead and put the desiccant back in underneath the little tray and then cover it back up. And there are 2 of these trays, so you're going to need to make sure you do that for both of the desiccant packs in the multi-spool AMS. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Put those desiccant packs back in. Put this cover back on. And there you go. Okay, now everything should be set up so that we can do the initial calibration. Okay, so before we start the calibration, I did find this one warning or notice or notification on the print plate itself, where it says users must use the glue stick to apply adhesive to the build surface before the first print. So that just makes sure that you use this include glue stick and you do 1 layer of glue stick on the surface itself before you print, and that just protects the surface of the print plate. Now the good thing is that this 3D printer does come with 2 additional print plates for if you need to replace the one that came with it. So again, a lot of extra parts and redundancies for this printer, so you definitely do get your money's worth out of this. Okay, so now we are going to go through and do the initial calibration again because it failed before, and that was because everything wasn't set up. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this printer back in so that way we can go through the calibration again. Okay, so go through setup, click next for English. It's connected to my Wi-Fi. Okay, login is successful. So device is idle now. Okay, so drop down menu or the hamburger at the top right, click on calibration and then start calibration. Now while it's doing the calibration, the only styrofoam you do not remove until the calibration is done is the styrofoam underneath the plate itself. Okay, so you actually want to calibrate, I guess, using the on-screen instead of the app itself. Okay, so now that that's done, we are going to remove the foam from the bottom and click Start Printing. And that should be it. It should be ready to print. But again, before you do your first new firmware update, and of course, since this is a new unit, there is going to be firmware potentially. So yes, we want to make sure we update the firmware. So we'll go ahead and update both the AMS and the printer firmware, and it's going to take about 10 minutes. Now, one thing to note is there is an SD card slot on the side of the LCD screen. So you can insert the SD card here on the side of the LCD screen. So we'll go ahead and let it update, and then we'll do our first test print. Okay guys, so as you can see, this printer is pretty huge, and it in fact even covers up me as well, taking up the entire camera. So one thing you're going to want to do, especially if you do buy the combo pack, is make sure you check the contents of the box completely, because at the bottom of the box there is also included 3 sets of filaments which come with the package as well as part of your payment or as part of the package. So that's going to help a lot of people who are new to 3D printing get started so that they can don't have to go out and buy extra filament. Although, you know, I do have a ton of extra filament just because I did have the Ender 3 Pro previously. So because I was already starting to 3D print, I do have a lot of extra filament. But for this one in particular, I think I'm going to use the ones that came with this X1 printer and install those. So simply need to just cut these packages open because they are air sealed or air vacuum sealed. And really that's just to keep out moisture because, you know, you want to keep these as dry as possible. And that's why there is that desiccant inside the storage bin for the filament at the top of this printer. Okay, so let's see. All right, so these are actually very nice reels for the filament itself. So it doesn't come with that much, but you know, I'd say it's, you know, a pretty nice reel, and you can reuse these to wrap other filaments that you pick up. And I'm not sure if it's proprietary and you have to use these reels, but you know, that's something we'll probably have to research a little bit. But the first one, of course, is your PACF. Looks like 400 grams. So there is a measurement on the side that tells you how much filament you do have. So it's good to keep track to let you know if you have enough filament, or if you're going to have to replace the filament during a print, because you have a pretty good gauge of how much filament you have left. So that's always a nice thing to have. So that's that. That's the PACF filament. And then you've also got the PLA basic filament, which is orange. So, you know, different types of filaments that do come with this printer itself. Okay, so these are the PLA basic. And again, this is only 200 grams, looks like. So again, not too much filament. That's one thing, one piece of feedback. You know, I do wish that they would include a lot more filament than just 200 and 400 grams. And then the final one is, let's see what this one is. Okay, so we've got black, orange, and white filament. So this is support W, 200 grams of filament as well. So different types of filament in different types of reels, which is pretty nice. So we'll go ahead and test this out using maybe the support W. We'll go ahead and put these all in there and just see how this works. So there is a piece of tape that holds the end of the filament that you're going to have to remove, that you're going to have to feed into the little feeders themselves. Okay, and I'm just going to cut the end of the filament off. Okay, so in order to install it, all you have to do is take your filament, put in the tray itself. You press this little trigger forward. So when you press it, it moves forward a little bit, and then feed the filament in, just like you would on any 3D printer. Okay, and then you just let go of it and it'll lock in place. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing with this orange PLA basic filament. Now I don't know if it's good or bad to mix filaments. Go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know if it's good or bad, or if there's any feedback on that. Also, let me know what type of filaments you like best. For me, because I'm going to be printing the hydroponics towers, I'm going to use PETG because that's pretty, you know, I was able to find some affordable PETG food grade filament that I could use to print the towers with that is fairly inexpensive. So for that one in itself, I'm going to use the PETG. Plus also because it's durable and, you know, good for outdoor use as well. Good for outdoor and indoor use. So it's very versatile material. Okay, and then the last one is the black. This material is actually very coarse feeling, this PACF material. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the third till it won't go any further. For the fourth one, I'm just going to go ahead and take one of my existing spools that I have in storage. So that is this PETG material, but this is white. I'm going to see if I have any PETG in black. Now I'm not sure if it'll work well with this system, but we'll find out if you have to use proprietary Bambu Labs, if you have to buy the filament from Bambu Labs. I have been using Overture filament because it is, one, very nicely priced, and then two, it's been very good quality. So I've liked the Overture filament, and it does come with a lot. So as you can see, it's got about over 1,000 grams of filament included in this thing. So I will just put that in there. And although it looks a little bit different, which bothers me, but you know, I'm not in it for the looks, and you can hardly even see the filament. It's the filament reels themselves, so no big issue. But I will go ahead and stick that one in there. And the last one. Okay, so all the filament is now installed. So we'll go ahead and close the lid. This AMS is that it will keep all the filament dry and ready to use. Okay, so we will go ahead and power this thing on now. Then at the same time, we'll pull up the app to see if there's anything we need to do in the app itself. And as you can see, since the last firmware update, the screen, and as you can see, since the last update, the screen also has changed. So I'm glad they did update the interface as well. It just looks very sharp and clean as well, and easy to read. So you can see all the options on it as well. It's very clear, bright, and crisp. So very nice quality screen. Okay, so as you can see, based on the app itself, it shows the AMS is idle, and it's showing that everything is empty. So let's see how we do this. Okay, so in the app itself, you can set up the AMS to make sure that you can identify the type of filament you have in there as well as the color. So for the first one I have white. Well, you choose the filament. So the first one was support W in white, and it automatically tells you the maximum temperatures for the nozzle, so I guess it has adjusted itself. So we'll save there. And then we've got, after that, we've got the orange, and I believe this was the, I'm trying to remember. This was the PLA Basic. So the orange is the PLA Basic, so it's Bambu, PLA Basic, orange. Then you save that. And then the third is the PACF. Again, Bambu, PACF in black. Then we'll save that. And then for the fourth, we've got we've got generic and PETG in gray. And we'll save that. Okay, so as you can see, as you make the changes on the app itself, it also updates on this LCD screen on the types of filament you have as well. Wi-Fi is connected. We're at home. See what the settings are. So there's a bunch of settings here where you can adjust the temperature, the cooling, the auxiliary cooling, as well as the extruder levels as well. There's a folder for the different types of things that you can print. And then there is I guess your profile, your account information, general information, network details, and then finally there's self-tests or other notifications. So let's go to the file and do a test print. But before I do the print, actually, I need to make sure that I am going onto the tray itself and applying the glue stick, because it does say, you know, before first print, you need to make sure that you apply the glue stick. So to do that, all you do is take the glue stick, unscrew the lid, take some glue out, and just go over the tray with your glue stick and apply a nice thin layer. And this just protects the tray itself. But this is something new actually that I haven't seen before. So let me know if you know what this is for and what it really actually does in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, and it helps also to remove the first print and off of the device itself. Okay, so we've already put a thin layer. Go ahead and close this out, and then we'll do the standard 3D Benchy boat print. Okay, we will print it with the... Okay, so it does tell you to place the above filament into the AMS slot from left to right according to the sequence. So it wants you to put the PLA in the first one. So it does recommend certain types of filament as well. Now I don't know if you actually have to use PLA like it's asking for, but let's do that. Let's go ahead and reconfigure this so that the PLA is in the front. So we'll take the white out and then take the orange out, which is the PLA, and put that in the first slot. Oh wow, it automatically feeds it too when it's on. So I guess you want to turn on, you'll want to install the filament when the printer is on, so it'll automatically feed the filament, which is nice. Okay, so let's go back on the app itself and update the placement. So the first one is going to be PLA Basic, and it's going to be orange. So we'll save that. And the second is going to be the Support W, and in white. So we'll replace that and save it. Okay, so now that it's updated, we will go ahead and do a test print of the 3D Benchy sailboat, which is the standard one that everyone uses to test out their printers. So we'll go ahead and click print now. And as you can see, it also updates on the app, so you can see real time the status of your print jobs at any given time, even if you're not at the printer itself. Okay, so the heat bed is now preheating. And we'll close the lid as well. So 17%. So everything you see on the LCD screen, you also see on the app itself. And the temperature actually heats up very fast compared to my previous Ender 3 Pro printer. And as you can see, it's automatically feeding the filament that it needs. It's very quiet too, which is nice. And that this glass makes a huge difference. So when it's closed, it's a lot quieter. So as you can see, it is in the back emptying out some filament, and it drops out through the back. And you can look on the floor right there, and it dropped it on the floor right there. So it does clean the nozzle tip, although there is some filament that it did drop on the tray already. And then it's now also doing a calibration and leveling the bed. So that's a nice thing about this printer as well, is that it automatically comes with bed leveling because it uses LiDAR and the tip itself to ensure that the bed is level, which is an extra attachment that you have to buy with most other 3D printers, to my knowledge. Okay, so I did a test print, and I think this is now using LiDAR to calibrate the extrusion. So you can see there is a little light, which is really the LiDAR. Now I think it started printing. So now there is 13 minutes left, and total print time for this boat is about 15 minutes, which compared to my Ender 3 Pro was a couple hours actually to print this same boat. So this one is definitely a lot faster. Now I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but you know, once this thing's done printing, I want to compare the boat and the quality of the boat that this one prints at the speed it prints versus my older Ender 3 Pro printer to see what the quality is like, to see if there is a difference and just how good or bad this printer is, and how much work you have to do after you print whatever you're printing. So as you can see, the printer does move very fast, and it's pretty amazing to see just how fast it is printing. Okay, so the print job is now complete. So as you can see on the screen itself, it has completed in 24 minutes total. And the boat is right here. So we'll go ahead and try to remove this. So as you can see, it is a pretty good quality print job, and it's super smooth. You can hardly even see the lines for some of it. I mean, but on some parts you can, but for the most part, a very solid print job. Super nice quality, definitely. I am very impressed with how fast this printer prints, and especially definitely on the quality without needing to do any kind of after print work or adjustment to it. You can pretty much use this as your final print job. You can pretty much use this as your final object without much sanding or finishing to do on the product itself. So yeah, super happy with the quality of the print job and amazed at how fast it can complete a print job. Okay, so from a comparison perspective, this again is the test print from the X1 Carbon that we sampled at the beginning of this video. As you can see, it's a pretty good job and pretty solid and doesn't require that much post-print finishing or adjustments. So it's very solid, has a nice weight to it, and feels very durable. Now this is using the default settings of the printer right out of the box, with only completing a calibration. So that is what the print job looks like for this test sample. In comparison, I also reset the Ender 3 Pro that I had previously, or that I still have, and used the default settings and only did some manual calibration to it. And this is the result of that print job. So the Ender 3 Pro sample is in black, and then the Carbon X1 is orange. So as you can see up close, there are some flaws, and it's not a super solid and smooth print job for the Ender 3 Pro. And comparatively speaking, the Carbon X1 or the X1 Carbon did a much nicer job. Although they both feel somewhat solid, the X1 Carbon print just feels a lot more solid, is a lot smoother, and has less imperfections. In fact, very little, if any, imperfections at all. So in comparison, the X1 Carbon just does an amazing job right out of the box in its quality and overall speed. So this one from the Carbon only took about, what, 24 minutes at most to print. This one took 3.5 to 4 hours to print. Now, again, you can't compare it because, you know, they're two different printers with two different sets of specs. So comparatively speaking, I'm only looking at the quality of the print itself. Okay, so now that we've completed the test print job on the X1 Carbon, one thing you do have to keep in mind is that this printer is not cheap. In fact, when all is said and done, minus the $20 pre-order deposit that I put down on this printer, overall this printer did cost me around $1,600. Now that in itself can be a little bit expensive, but there are cheaper variants of this 3D printer that don't come with the combo tray and attachments. You also do have the option to get the standard X1, which costs around $1,000, while the X1C is around $1,200. So there are cheaper variants that are available of this X1 Carbon. And I will say that for $1,600, you do definitely get a very good quality product in this 3D printer. It's a very solid printer that's well built and definitely with quality materials put into it. Now virtually everything on this printer is custom made to give you the best 3D print possible in the shortest amount of time. Now I gotta admit, Bambu Labs did deliver on a lot of their promises that they mentioned in their Kickstarter and in their advertisements. And most of the social media buzz that you do hear about this printer, I gotta say, is living up to the hype. Now from a specs perspective, it's got a 0.4 millimeter print nozzle and extruder that comes with this printer, both installed, and you also get an extra one for backup. And overall it can melt polymers and filaments up to 300 degrees Celsius, which covers the spectrum of materials that you can use when it comes to 3D printing. Now the other thing that I like about this 3D printer, or this machine, is that it's fully enclosed, which also helps it print very quietly thanks to the tempered glass front doors. Now the best and most unique part of this printer specifically, and probably of most 3D printers out there because I haven't seen it before, is of course the AMS, which is at the top of this printer. And that stands for Automated Multicolor System, which means that this thing can support up to 16 different colors and different types of filaments all at once, assuming that you connect and tether an additional 3 AMS systems to this printer. So what that means is each of these AMS systems can house up to 4 different colored filaments or 4 different types of filaments, and gives you that ability to tether 3 additional one of these AMS systems to the system itself for a total of 16 different colors or types of filaments all at once. Now the other good thing is that this printer also has a built-in internal camera as well as a LiDAR system that helps to identify print faults, bed level, and also to calibrate the system so that you don't have to. Now in my experience, or at least through my research, I don't know of any other 3D printer system that has all of those features. And because it's also got Wi-Fi built in, it can also self-update through over-the-air firmware updates and downloads, and can also connect wirelessly to your internal Wi-Fi network. Now another feature that this X1 Carbon has is also a feature called active vibration cancellation. Now what that does is it does help it to stabilize print jobs if there's a lot of movement, or if the printer itself is on an unstable surface, and it can also help ensure better print quality overall. And then another feature that this printer has that I haven't seen in any other kind of 3D printer out there is that this thing has built-in AI, which helps to improve print jobs over time. Now in addition to that, it also auto-pauses any print job when any failure or issues are detected, and that's also using the internal features that I mentioned previously. I also like that this printer has a super clear 5-inch LCD screen that just gives you all the information about your settings and the current status of your print job, and it's so easy to read and colorful. And in addition to that, you also have the app, which is continuously improving so that you can manage and monitor your prints remotely if you need to. Overall, this printer truly is a self-standing and self-sufficient 3D printer. Oh, and before I forget, it's also got a 256 cube printing space, which means there's plenty of space to print whatever you want on this printer itself. And then of course there is the speed of the printer itself, as you saw in the demo of this little boat itself, how fast it prints. And as a reminder, this sample boat only took about 15 to 20 minutes to print, whereas the same boat took about 4 hours to print on my Ender 3 Pro. However, because again, they are 2 different types of printers with different specs, they shouldn't be compared from an apples to apples standpoint. From a quality perspective though, you can tell that the quality for the X1 Carbon is of much better quality than the one printed on my Ender 3 Pro. Now I think the only complaint that I really have about this printer is that it didn't come with a purge bucket for the discarded filament from the printer itself. Now that in itself would have been nice rather than having just the filaments falling all over the floor or the surface of wherever the printer is placed. So at this point, I've only been playing with this X1 Carbon printer for about a day now. And based on my initial impressions, I gotta say the thing is 5 stars all across the board. If you've got $1,600 to spare and you're in the market for a good 3D printer, this is the one to get. Now over the next couple of days and weeks, I'm going to start attempting to print my hydroponics 3D tower parts and see how those go. And if everything goes well, that puts me a step closer to marketing and selling custom 3D printed hydroponic towers and other doohickeys that I can print with this printer. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing, setup, and review of the Carbon X1 combo from Bambu Labs. As I continue to experiment and print more objects, I'll share with you my progress and adventures in 3D printing. Now if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please support this channel by smashing that like button and subscribing. Please also make sure that you ring that bell icon to get notified when I post new content. Now if you've got your hands on one of these X1 printers, let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you've also got any tips and tricks or any templates or suggestions for 3D printing overall, please make sure you share those as well. I love to hear from you. Anyways, until next time, I'll see ya.